How's it going, everybody? Sessiion here. How's it going? So, yeah, we made an attempt through doing Orthos as a Reaper solo, and we unfortunately got the worst possible luck I think known to man in terms of the affectation of the floor. I guess for like storytelling purposes, right? So basically, like I did the first floor in about 10 minutes, which was already daunting enough because of a mimic that I had to deal with. Didn't like that. And then TLDR, like, got into the next floor. It gave me... It was damage down, no items, and gloom all together. And I literally was already... I already pulled something, like a mob, I think it was. I think it was the giant eye gazer, and then it literally did a bunch of damage to me. Then I found one of the patrol, the first patrol, and then I had the cursed horde on me too. And then the horde, it of course, like a perfect timing walking. Like I literally walked around to it, like this way. Yeah, literally, and I walked into. It wasn't a. I wish it was a silence. That would have been the better option. It walked me into a luring, and the luring gave me another eye gazer. It gave me the deep eye, which basically increases my vulnup stacks, and a persona, which teleports to me and tries to hit me with cones and like point blanks, like for the whole thing. So like and then I had summoned a demiclone to help me like a bit with like the damage recovery for that, and it just didn't work out for me, and I just died. So I also already had used my raising at that point as well, because I got killed by a mimic, and that wasn't fun. So we're just here. We're gonna try it out as a machinist and see how we feel about it. I'm hoping for several things to happen now that we're playing it as a machinist. I'd like to believe that a machinist is still a high-level contender of a class to bring to Orthos. However, I need to be careful of a couple things, like just right there. I basically used Ricochet to pull the succubus, and now I literally have to kite it and not get hit by it because my health is a little bit on the lower side. And I'm trying to avoid using like my Orthos potions, which I don't even have on my hotbar, and now I gotta fix that because I just realized I don't have it. But I didn't need to use it at all for the first 10 floors as a Reaper, so I'm pretty comfortable that I'm not gonna need to use it even for these floors either. However, it's still gonna be pretty important. So I switched to Machinist for two simple reasons. One, I just can't deal with the mimic poxing me every 30 seconds. Because it literally was like every 30 seconds. I can't even like emphasize how obnoxious it was. It was really crazy, actually. I think every iterational moment that I had a chance to open a chest, whether it was bronze, silver, or gold, throughout my run, pretty much ran into a mimic. Almost every time. And it was not aggravating. I wasn't annoyed by it, but like the RNG factor for that was crazy, actually. It was a lot. Like, I think I spent, I want to say out of the whole hour of my, like, the floor that I would go through, I think I spent 45 minutes, if not, like, even more, just stuck in pox the whole time. And I had a purity, and I was going to think about using it, but I didn't want to really use it with Unie because she had used like cure on me basically to try and keep me alive, but the DPS that came from the deep eye and the other two mobs with the autos, they were just stacking up too much on me, and I just couldn't survive it long enough to actually like survive. So it was pretty unfortunate, but it's okay though. I mean, we're here now. We're doing it again as Machinist. So yeah, I believe that being able to go Machinist and use the head graze, should help me immensely with dealing with pox, hopefully. I didn't really count the amount of time it takes for the pox to come off from the or rather the mimic to reuse infatuation, but I'd like to believe that infatuation will still occur, and I'm hoping that it'll like recycle as we kind of go through the masses of pulling the things, because like I said, like I'm gonna reattempt it as a Reaper for sure, because I want my run back after that salty defeat. But I would like to assume that by going in as a Machinist, I actually can do a lot of things that'll actually help me out pretty immensely, and I think I recommend this class still even. So again, the number one for sure reason is that just having the head grace for mimics is going to probably be like a massive lifesaver and also time saver for a lot of things. That's the first thing. Second thing is, like, in situations like this, rather than trying to like maximize my melee uptime while the boss is in the middle of casting things, I can still keep attacking from a distance. So that's going to also be really, really helpful for a wide variety of cases, I'm sure. And I think also, lastly, now that I thought about it too, I'm going to be able to hold on to bursts pretty well. Just because it's just going to be easy to, like, you know, build up my queen and just have the queen do damage, because, you know, the timer for the queen is the same. The only difference is going to be the damage output that comes from queen. So I just have to worry about being able to, like, just, you know, store a queen. I'll, you know, start to gain my charges for reassemble. I'll get my chainsaw, and that should also allow me to build up my, like I said, my all my resources to be able to do like really good burst damage. Especially because, like, the actual attack of the queen is an OGCD, but all of my tools are GCD. So even if I do get like a no abilities available debuff in a floor, I will still at least be able to use all of those things. And, like, for me at least, it's still going to be very worthwhile, just because I'll be able to do a lot of more damage just in general, and also I don't have to worry currently, at least, about like a debuff with Machinist. So, you know, it'll be really easy to just have more. I'll just have more buttons than I have currently versus a Reaper, because with Reaper I only had I had Shadow of Death, which was my buff, which is important, of course. I had that. I had my normal combo. I had Soul Slice and a Harvest Moon, and that was literally it. Now, of course, I still have a lot of, you know, I think I still have almost the same number of buttons as a Machinist. The buttons are different, but they're still there. You know, I'll basically have like all my meter building. You know, I got Chainsaw, Anchor, Drill, even Bioblaster if I really need to go that far. You know, my stuff is not going to really be on a timer of like durational usage. So, like, you know, with at least when I use like Gluttony, for example, if I use Gluttony as a Reaper, then I only have, you know, the timer that it takes to actually utilize the you know, the Gibbet or the Gallows. I don't have that issue anymore, thankfully. So hopefully this will allow me to really take advantage of a lot of stuff that I wouldn't have been able to take advantage of as like a Reaper. I think the biggest thing, of course, too, is going to be the ability to kite everything around. Being able to like have things chase me and try and hit me with autos, and just like running away from it is definitely a tactic that's going to be heavily used. Especially because I can still play the runaway game, and just being able to like take advantage of this as well is already showcasing its value as well. So I'm already thinking that like going in as a Machinist is going to be extremely fruitful. I just can't really die stupid. Not that I didn't die stupid against the 81 floor as a Reaper. The problem with that mode, or that run rather, was simply the fact that like I just got hit with 3 debuffs, and I didn't have a Serenity, so I couldn't remove them, because it was no items. Yeah, it was no items, damage down, and gloom. So only thing I can use was a Demiclone, and even then it still kind of sort of like wasn't enough. I think like in turn, I tried to save my Onion Knights. I think that the Onion Knight are the best ones to use for the floors bosses. I tried to save those essentially, And I think not using Onion Knight was actually like it kind of like bit me back. I think I should have used it, even though it was still the worst choice to use. But I think in that case scenario, it probably would have saved me better than using Unie, because I was trying to rely on the heal of Unie with like the Stone Skin and the Cure. But I think that the Clemency basically from the Onion Knight would have probably done me a bit more justice. I don't know though. That run is over, so we can just. I'm gonna chalk that up and call that an L, but it's like, you know, we're gonna just try and crack it again and see how we feel. Now I think overall though, my personal opinion has definitely shifted a bit, but it's not gonna really showcase its value, at least not until we get to the higher floors, because basically having to rely on my own damage as a melee was really pleasant, and also just being able to manifest uptime actually gave me a lot of information. So it let me understand that a lot of things will attack up close, and I think that in some case scenarios too, fighting things up close is actually going to be just as fruitful as fighting things from a distance. But nice, thank you. But I do think that, you know, there still comes the territory of like, you need to still treat everything as you would normally for, as if you're fighting on, like, you know, in the face, basically. Like, I can still kite around, of course, but I need to be careful about doing that for certain mobs, I think, because there are definitely some mobs that will do certain attacks that are different, and those different attacks will definitely showcase, like, the dangers of them, too. And I think that won't really showcase its, that moment until we get to like the 60s, I think it is. Just because like there's literally a mob that if you're far away from it, then it essentially uses an attack that it'll hit you with, or it tries to hit you with, because you're far away. And I think it's mostly important to just understand one pattern of attack versus having to memorize both patterns. So I think the creature I'm thinking about in specificity is called the Thunder Beast. I think it looks like it's like a giant, like, lanky. I want to call it a monkey. Either way, it looks like an opal though. It kind of walks like an opal actually. Yeah, that thing essentially just will either like lift up its tail as an indication of like a point blank AoE around it that you have to avoid. Or it'll cast Spark, which is essentially Dragon Voice, if you know about the Chimera. And I think it's mostly important for me to be able to like fight it in one style versus another. Like I don't want to know how to defeat it from a distance when I was already able to handle it perfectly fine at like close range. Is the point I'm trying to make. So because I fought it up close, I'd rather continue to fight it up close and try to learn how to fight it from a distance. Since I already had that experience, basically. And that'll kind of take me away from needing to, again, like, learn a different strategy. Because if I can't reapply that strategy on, like, a Reaper, for example, then I don't really feel a need to try to learn it with a job like Machinist. Although that, at least not until I can effectively find the comfort in that differentiation and then be able to apply it in both fields, even if they are different. But I'm definitely willing to just consider the options of just playing it like it's like if I'm Reaper right now but just with a different rotation, I'd rather play like that, is like the TLDR of it. Yeah, because I don't really want to be caught in a situation that would get me in trouble like I did with my Reaper run, mostly because my Reaper run basically wasn't caused by my inability to play the class or anything like that. It was because of the fact that I got just terribly debuffed with like a bunch of stuff that I truly think I could have avoided. Now here's an example I think where I might be able to figure out how well it works for me to play Machinist versus like Reaper. Because if I was playing Reaper, I think I definitely have a very different mentality about how to fight and deal with these things. Mostly because like I'm kiting, which I like as a Reaper. Kiting is basically just off the table. I can't do it. Although I also don't want to keep on attracting all the things that are in my face right now. But I guess I have no choice. So I think this is like the biggest difference for sure. Like I think I just don't have to deal with autos as often as I did as a Reaper, because like as a Reaper I would have to just essentially target one thing at a time and use all of my cooldowns and potions basically to just keep them at bay, like defensively and like mitigation wise. And again, at this point too, I think I'd have pox, and the pox would also be something that would just add a little bit more of like a headache to the situation as a whole. But like the fact that I only used my second wind and was able to fight 4 of them, even though it's only level 110, like it's, or level 1 rather out of 10, you know, it being like the first 10 floors is still, you know, worthy of just being able to like showcase that. But I am expecting the DPS difference between Reaper and Machinist to show face, unfortunately. I do think that Reaper's output is just going to be generally higher than Machinist, but the burst damage that Machinist can put out will definitely still be very strong. I don't want to necessarily take away Machinist's luster at all, because I do still think that the job will showcase its value extremely high outside of like, you know, the simple melee output that does exist for Reaper. Because I think I'm still trading the ability to attack up close and hard, and like very strongly, versus like just fighting at a distance, without necessarily also getting in trouble for you know, certain things. But at the same time though, I gotta be careful, because the idea, this is kind of where I'm talking about too, because pulling both of these mobs is actually a very strong example of trying to effectively fight in a scenario where I don't get too comfortable dealing with, you know, the target as a whole. So in this example, if I kept running away backwards, like in this scenario, like I don't want to keep running away, because again, I might get too comfortable with running away where the AoE hit that it's going to shoot me with is too far away, that running away from it is actually like a bad idea. Of course, like this requires the knowledge of the mob that I'm fighting as well. So like if I'm fighting a mob and the range is short and I can run away, then like sure, but that's definitely something I don't want to get too comfortable with, because I just know for a fact that like I'm gonna run, it's gonna stand in place and swing at me, but I'll run away from it. But the range it covers is so wide and far that it's impossible to avoid, when I could have just like moved to the side from where it was sitting basically. So that's what I want to just get used to, is I want to still have the offensive mobility as a melee, but still have the safety net of being able to play a fizz range that can do a high output of damage. But I think still, by the bottom line though, I'm playing Machinist because I didn't like the pox that I continuously had to deal with as a Reaper. Yeah, that's like pretty much it. Because like there was moments in time where like, I had like, you know, 50 seconds left on my pox where I was like, cool, if I literally don't touch anything, I'll just remove it, and then I'll open up a gold chest in the higher floors, and it was a mimic, and because I had to just deal with the pox, you know, my timer just reset basically. And I think at that point, if I had a purity, I just used it, but if I didn't have a purity, then I, you know, just sat there and tried to basically deal with it, and like super heal through it as much as possible with like potions or hyper potions, or, you know, I use my arcane crest and like bloodbath and, you know, second wind. I always pretty much had those abilities on cooldown, just because like they were so at the ready. See, like even this is a thing I could have, you know, just interrupted and not had to deal with, and as a Reaper I wouldn't have had that capability. And even though the thing only gives me disease, the comfort of having just a general sense of silence is very fruitful, actually. Like I said, I think that's going to really make or break a really big difference between being able to play as Machinist versus Reaper. I think the other thing too, actually, is yeah, it's gonna be Peloton. I'd hate to like actually admit it, but at least as a Reaper, like I think I get to use my what is it? I think I get to use like my ingress and egress at least every 20 seconds, but I can just freely use Peloton, and it's gonna actually save me a lot of time because running actually uses up quite a bit of especially when you have to go the other way. Like if I go down one pathway and that pathway just leads to a dead end and the key's on the other side, then I literally can save a lot of I save actually a lot of time by just being able to like sprint between or use like a mix between Peloton versus sprint. I mean, obviously sprint will be faster, but still Peloton is still more efficient versus using something like, you know, my ingress or egress. And then I use Sessiion as well, so I was afraid that it was gonna. See, I think, let me see. I get to actually test this too. Can I keep on kiting this thing and it chase me as I get to the... See, that's another big thing too, actually. Something like this is going to definitely showcase its importance for sure as I go through the floors. Is just the simple fact that like I can keep on kiting as I make my way to the... I almost pulled the behemoth actually. Yeah, I'll be able to keep on kiting as I make my way to the actual key. And also still do like a lot of damage. Because like as a Reaper, I couldn't do that. Actually, like a really big deal. Because I'd have to kind of like bob and weave back and forth. I'd run out and then run in to grab the hit and then keep running out as I kind of like, you know, that's like my form of kiting as a melee. And like it was working, but it, you know, it just wasn't working efficiently well compared to just being able to like, I could actually just normal run and just keep chipping away at it even more so than I would in any other scenario. So, you know, we'll see. Okay. A fortune. I think that thing is procs. Yes. I wanted this to go regardless, so. Yeah, see, the fact that I can still kite this thing is actually really insane. Actually incredible. Cool. Love it. I actually can't, oh no, that's gonna be a pain in the butt. Oh, massive pain in the butt. Here we go. This actually might not really go well for me. I'm gonna have to just like target the mimic at the most. Now, of course, that being said, target this one. Oh my god, I shot the other behemoth? That sucks. Okay. My goodness. Okay. That's the only... That was actually the biggest issue that I ran into. Or that's the biggest concern that I had. That's the more important way to put it. The biggest concern that I had doing this as a fizz range was basically targeting something and then immediately targeting another thing that I didn't mean to target. because that's actually going to be, that was the thing that had put me in the out of the idea of playing as a fist range or a caster, because I was going through this as a red mage with like friends, and we pretty much was like, I'll just keep, I mean, this is I guess me being like user error to a degree, but like I would just basically spam my abilities to be able to cast my insta spells, and then I would, you know, cast something like my jolt into a Thunder, but then when the volt, or sorry, the jolt would kill along with my team's damage, then I would end up using Thunder or Arrow against the thing that was actually behind, and then pull that thing in error. And that was my immediate response of like, I no longer want to do it as a machinist, so I just, or even or red mage rather. So I applied that same mentality to wanting to try it out as a machinist, because I literally didn't want to do that. However, I think it's going to come with the territory, and this is just going to require me to like get good, for lack of a better, you know, description of it all. Oh, but I know it's spawn here. That's why. I mean, that's fine though. I like need to build my leveling, because that's the biggest problem, is that I'm not 84, or I'm not 86, or 88 or 90. Like reaching level 90 will definitely, like my power will be heavily showcased once I hit 90. Just because I'm still missing like a lot of my kit actually, like damage wise, it still doesn't actually require some type of effort. Your procs? I didn't. Okay. I don't know why I thought that you weren't boxing. That fortune would have been handy. I don't want that. Okay, now I do. Okay. I do still fear the idea though that like I'm gonna need to be very careful as I progress to the later floors, because I already know for a fact that it's gonna be something that's gonna like daunt on me for a while. Honestly, I'd like to test a oh wait, I just used an Afrolink and then 149. I'm the smartest man in the room. Cool. I'd like to test the Dreadbeast scenario that I might encounter in the future. So I guess for context as well, just in terms of during my my Reaper run, I really didn't encounter Dreadbeasts between floors. Now, when I say encounter, I mean like I didn't visually see them. Not even like I didn't want to fight them, so I skipped them. I like actually went through the floors, and there wasn't any confirmation of the Dreadbeast even being on the floors. Now, I don't know if that's like something that is like just RNG based, or if it's because of the actual way that they want to like set up the masses for it. But I like me not running into a Dreadbeast almost seemed a little bit like bizarre. And I guess I haven't figured out how to pull them as a solo player. So I'm actually curious as to how to figure that out. Actually, I'd love to know like the frame data for that basically. Because in my mind, I like to think that like as a Reaper player, pulling a Dreadbeast is actually going to require like a lot of like timing perfection, if I would. In theory, like I said, I haven't figured it out. If I had to take a guess, though, I would say that if I pulled a Dread Beast, then obviously I'd need to Storms it to kill it, right? I need to use Storms to kill it because I typically kill it with an attack as soon as the Storms commences. So using it in like a 2-man scenario is actually really easy, but using it as a solo player, I have no idea actually. So I'm curious basically. In my mind, I'd like to think that because Dread Beasts are sight-based mobs, that I would want to try to sneak up behind one essentially, and then pop the Storms, and then try to hit it as soon as I possibly can? Question mark? I don't know though. Yeah, I'm very curious to see how that might unfold, and I have no idea. So, oh, it's this thing. I actually need to like use a steel and also put my potions in place, because I remember when I went through this the first time. This is gonna be embarrassing. Yeah, this thing hurts. Honestly, this thing hurts. If you don't have like your potion stuff set up, then this thing hurts quite a bit. I was not actually ready for it to be a painful mob to deal with. Not even using a Demiclone, because when I played this as a Reaper, I don't think I used the Demiclone for it either, but the very first time I used Reaper for this thing, oh, that was the bigger problem. The bigger problem that I ran into was that I just didn't have, the Orthos potions. So literally, like, without an Orthos potion as a Reaper, it was impossible for me to survive, because literally the Mondra Storm and autos eventually just caught up to my Crest, Bloodbath, and Second Wind, and I didn't even have Hyper Potions either. So yeah, when I think about it in that case scenario, I was gonna SOL. Because it wasn't even like I didn't have them equipped, I just didn't even have them. Oh, wait. I still don't even have my potions out. Like, I thought I already activated it to further regeneration, but I didn't. Oh, this might hurt if I don't. Kind of sort of have to be like as little moving as possible while the queen is doing its thing, because I want to be able to let it like maximize damage. Oh, that was just like that. That's okay. I'm not paying any attention to figure out my first name, honestly. I'm just like using the queen willy-nilly. It's not good. So now I have to figure out a place to put my hyper potions, and now it's gonna actually hot. Okay. I thought that hit me. I was afraid for a split second. I have a question actually. I don't know where to put the potion. I'll figure it out by the next set of horrors. Okay. Not bad. First 10. As Machinist.